For a couple minutes, I would love to talk to you about service, one of our formation practices, and it's particularly the most outward-facing of our 10 formation practices here at All Saints. You could also argue that it's perhaps the most difficult because it requires the most of us. But as is true with most of life, what we put into something often determines what we get out of it. And you might ask why? Well, we have Jesus, who came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. And laying that foundation for us and setting that example, we see that it's not just action that he took, it was an attitude with which he lived. And so that's really the gospel call in our lives, in its essence, is as he has laid down his life for us, so also we lay down our lives for others. And so you might ask how? The first thing I would say is there's a variety of opportunities to serve. There are many doors of service, and it would be a wonderful thing if we would all discover our individual desires and gifts and apply those in a way that actually equips and nurtures the entire body. And I want to encourage you to do that. You can get online and see that there are many different service opportunities, both in our church, outside our church, and even to the widest parts of the world. But I also want to just draw for a second our attention to the vows that we take, to the promises that we make. When we become members of All Saints, we make a promise to support the church in its worship and in its work. And so that's why, as an entire body and every member who's a part of it, we offer to help with the offertory. We are giving what we have unto the Lord as an act of worship. And we call everyone who's a member to do that because it's a privilege as much as it is a service for us to physically get to partake in the offering of worship to the Lord. And there's a second promise also that we make. Every time there are baptisms, we make a promise as an entire congregation of people. The pastor at the front, after asking the celebrant certain questions, will turn to the crowd. And there's a promise made, not just to support the church in its worship and work, but to support the children of the church, to grow them up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. You may even hear it in an upcoming Sunday. And so that's why here at All Saints, we all together, to fulfill that promise, offer to help take care of our kids in the children's area of our church. On a Sunday morning, we go in there and with a loving attitude, present to them the presence of Christ. And if we're called to teach, then we teach, but most of us aren't. It's really just being the hands and feet of Christ with the children to fulfill the promise that we made as a body. And so those are some really specific ways that we fulfill our promises of service to this specific iteration of the church. And I would encourage you to begin to think of it that way, maybe if you haven't. But even more than that, also begin to think of the way that God's individually crafted you and gifted you, that you might lay down your life here just as Christ has laid down his life for you. You might serve this church. I hope you'll start to do so.